Now we are going to discuss about the route reflector configuration via loopback. Okay. So for that, let me connect the four different routers like we did yesterday. One, two, three, and four. Okay. On these, first of all, we are going to create the neighborship in between all the routers via BGP, IBGP protocol, and after that, I'm going to do the configuration of route reflector via loopback IP. Okay, dear. So basically, it is also separate topic that how we can configure the BGP neighborship via loopback IP addresses. Okay, dear. So let us assume there are four routers over here, and all of these routers have IP addresses that is 192 dot 192.168, sorry, 168.10.0. Okay, dear. So this is the network in between these two. Other network is 192.168.11.0, 11.0, and 192.168.12.0. Okay, so these are the three networks available in between R1, R2, and R2, R3, and R3, R4. Okay, and let us assume that the IP address of the interfaces are 192.168.10.1, 192.168.10.2, 192.168.11.1, and 192.168.11.2. Okay, 192.168.12.1 and 192.168.12.2. Okay, so all of these are connected. Let us assume the loopback IP address available is 10.0.1.1 slash 24 on router number 1, 10.0.1 that is 2.1 slash 24 on router number 2, 10.0.3.3.1 slash 24 on router number 3, and router 4 has 10.0.4.1 slash 24. So these are the loopback IP addresses available on all the routers. Okay, let me turn on all of them. First of all, let's provide the IP address, and after that we are going to do the configuration of IBGP, then route reflector. Okay, so R1, R2, R3, and R4, let me take the console access of all of these. R3 and R4, R2, R3. Let's also take the access of R1. Okay, dear. So we got the access of all of these. So let's start with router number one, configuring terminal interface F0/0, no shutdown. IP address is 192.168.10.1 and 255.255.255.0. Okay. So show hide label interfaces. Interfaces are visible now. Okay. Then interface loopback 1 IP address is 10.0 10.0.1.1 and 255.255.255.0. Okay, so let's go to router number 2 and provide the IP addresses configuring terminal. So there are three IP addresses there. Interface F0/0, no shutdown. IP addresses 10.0 sorry, 192.168.10.2 and 255.255.255.0. Interface F1/0, no shutdown. IP address is 192.168.11.1 and 255.255.255.0. Okay. So we have just provided the IP address on other side. Let's provide the IP address to the loopback interface. Loopback 1 IP address is 10.0.2.1 255.0. Okay, let's go to router number 3, configuring terminal interface F1/0, no shutdown. IP address is 192.168.11.2 and 255.255.255.0. Interface F0/0, no shutdown, and IP address is 192.168.12.1 and 255.255.255.0. Another is interface loopback 1 and IP address is 10.0.3.1 and 255.255.255.0. Okay, dear. Let's go to router number 4 and provide the IP addresses. Configure terminal interface F0/0, no shutdown. IP address is 192.168.12.2, 255.255.0, and interface loopback IP addresses interface loopback 1 IP addresses 10.0.4.1 and 255.255.255.0. Okay, dear. So we have just provided the IP address to all of these routers. Okay, so let's go to router one number one and configure the BGP protocol in between R1 and R2 via loopback IP address. How we can do the configuration via loopback IP address? Let me explain you. Okay, dear. So router BGP 100. Okay, let us assume the AS number in between the all of these are AS 100 because we are doing the IBGP configuration. Okay, 100 and AS 100. Okay, neighbor. Now, dear, what will be the neighbor IP address for router number one? If I am going to configure the BGP protocol via loopback IP, what must be the loopback IP address for the R1? So for R1, in configuring the neighborship with R2, this loopback must be used, right or not, dear? So R1 will use this loopback IP address for the neighborship and R2 will use this loopback as the neighborship. Okay, let's create the neighborship in between these two via loopback IP addresses. Okay, let's go to router number one and neighbor. Which one is the neighbor, dear? Neighbor, that is 10.0.2.1, remote AS 100. Okay, now, dear, you also have to define the source. If you are creating the neighborship via loopback IP addresses, so you have to define that I also creating the neighborship via loopback. So consider my loopback also. So you have to mention the loopback one over here. Okay, dear. So I also mention the loopback one over here. Okay, so how we can mention the loopback? So neighbor 10.0.2.1 and update source loopback 1. So I will also provide the information of loopback 1 that on my side also the loopback 1 will be used for the neighborship. Okay, dear. Now advertise the network information. Network 192.168.10.0. Okay, 0 dot and mask will be 255.255.255.0. Network will be 10.0.1.0 and mask will be 255.255.255.0. Okay, let's do the configuration on router number 2. On router number 2, so router BGP 100 neighbor, which one is the neighbor? 10.0.1.1. Okay, and remote AS 100. So I will use the neighbor loopback IP for this time. And neighbor, which one is that? Neighbor 10.0.1.1 update source loopback 1. That I'm going to create the neighborship via loopback IP addresses. Okay, dear all, dear. And now advertise the next loopback IP addresses because there are two loopback IP addresses for the neighborship in R2. So R2 will create the neighborship with this loopback IP, then with this loopback IP. So let's mention the right side loopback IP address also. So neighbor will be 10.0.3.1, remote AS 100, and neighbor 10.0.3.1, update source loopback 1. Okay. Now advertise the networks 192.168.10.0. Mask will be 255.255.255.0. Network will be 192.168.11.0 and network will be 10.0.2.0. So let's mention all of these 10.0.2.0 and mask will be this one. Okay, dear. Let's go to router number 3 and do the configuration. Okay, so router BGP 100 neighbor, that is what? For router number 3, there are two neighbors. What are these two neighbors there for the router number 3? For this one is the neighbor and this one is the neighbor. So we have two neighbors. So provide the neighbor information on both the side. Okay, so neighbor that is 10.0.2.1 remote AS 100 and neighbor 10.0.2.1. Okay, update source loopback 1. Okay, dear, neighbor 10.0.3.1 and uh, okay, 10.0.4.1 must be there. Okay, 10.0.4.1 and remote is 100. Network will be 192.168.11.0 and mask will be 255.255.255.0. Network is 192.168.12.0. Okay, and network will be what? 10.0.3.0. Okay, 10.0.3.0 and mask will be this one. Okay, dear. We have just provided all the informations. Now let's go to router number 4 after providing this information. Okay. Router number 3 and router number 4. Okay, dear. So router BGP 100. Okay, neighbor. Which one is the neighbor? 10.0.4.10.0.3.1. Remote AS 100 neighbor 10.0.3.1 update source loopback 1. Okay, and network will be 10.0.3.0 and mask will be 255.255.255.0. Network 192.168.12.0 and mask will be 255.255.255.0. Okay,
Sir,
yes, dear.
network 10.0.4.0.
Yeah, we have just provided the wrong information. Oh, that is what we have done. Okay, let's delete this one. Router BGP 100 10.0.4.0. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Now, network
Please check.
and delete this one. Okay. No network 10.0.3.0. Okay. Now this is perfect. Okay.
Also,
And
sir, in R3,
yeah, R3 we have to provide the network
update
information.
source
Yeah,
for,
update source for the 4.1. Okay,
yes.
so router BGP 100. Okay, neighbor 10.0.4.1. Okay, update source loopback 1. Okay, dear. So we have just done the configuration everywhere, but dear, the problem is that if you will go to router number 1 and check the table, do show IPBGP. So you will find that no network is available in this table. Why is it so? Even this loopback IP address is not available in the table of R1 after the neighborship. And R2 is not having these two loopback IP addresses. R3 is not having any loopback IP addresses. No neighborship is here because because if there will be any indirectly connected network in the IBGP, so we have to provide the reachability. So on R1 we have to provide the reachability to this loopback also. On R2 I have to provide the reachability for this loopback and this loopback. On R3 I have to provide the reachability to this loopback and this loopback. On R4, we have to provide the reachability on this loopback also. Okay, dear. So this is done by the help of any protocol we can take. So I will take the OSPF protocol. Okay, because OSPF is somehow works easily with the BGP. Okay, you can take any protocol. Well, so router OSPF1 network. Which network is that? 10.0.1.0 and 0.0.0.255 area will be 0. Okay, network 192.168.10.0 and mask will 0.0.0.255 area will be 0. Okay, dear. Let's do the configuration on router number 2. Here we have router number 2. So router OSPF1 network 192.168.10.0 0.0.0.0.255 area will be 0. 192.168.11.0 and network will be 10.0.2.0. Okay, 10.0.2.0 and so on. Okay. Now let's wait for some seconds because we have yet we didn't get any messages of the neighborship. Soon we are going to get the neighborship message if everything works fine because the two protocols are working back to back. So it will take some times to create the neighborship. Okay. So I'm waiting for that. Okay, we got the message for the OSPF that adjacencies has been done now, right? The adjacencies is created in between the neighbors 10.0.0.1 and after that, soon after that, we got the message of BGP also. Once you provide the reachability by OSPF, it will automatically get the reachability of the BGP also. Okay. So let's go to router number 3 and do the configuration. So router OSPF1 network 192.168.11.0, 168.11.0 and 0.0.0.255 area will be 0. So 192.168.12.0. Okay. Now let's also provide the network information of, yeah, we got the message of OSPF now, right or not, dear? And after that, the BGP message will be there 10.0.3.0 and area 0. Okay. So we have just provided the information of this one. Soon after that, we will get the BGP messages once you advertise the network. So we got the neighborship message of the BGP also. Okay. So OSPF provide the reachability and after reachability, the neighborship will be up. Let's go to router number 4. So OSPF, router OSPF 1 network 192.168.12.0, okay, 0.0.0.255 area will be 0. Network will be 10.0.10.0.4.0 and area 0. Soon you will get the message of neighborship with the OSPF also. This is the OSPF message, sorry. Now you will got the message for the BGP also after creating the neighborship, but it will take some time to do. Okay, because BGP is somehow a slower protocol as compared to others. Okay, yeah, we got the message by the BGP also. Okay, now let me cross check the tables. If I will go to router number 1 here, do show do show IP BGP. So you will find that there is only limited network. Which one is there? 10.0.1.0 and 2.0. Two networks are available here only. We can't see any of these networks. So how we can provide these network information here?
Route reflector.
Yeah, route reflector. Now we have to do the configuration of route reflector by the help of loopback IP addresses. For that, first of all, I have to create the neighborship with the route reflector with the server router. So which ones you want to create the server, dear? R1, R2, R3 or R4?
Anyone from R2 or R3?
Okay. Perfect. So let's create the server on R2. Okay, well, any of these you can choose. So let's create the server on R2. Okay, so this is our server and this is our client. Okay, and this is also our client, and next one, this is also our client. But dear, as we already have seen that we have created the manual neighborship in between R1 and R2, R2 and R3. But there is a condition for the route reflector that all the routers must be direct neighbor for the route reflector, right or not? So we have to create the neighborship in between R2 and R4 as well. So let's also set up the neighborship in between R2 and R4 by the help of loopback IP addresses. Okay. So let's go to router number 2. So router BGP 100 neighbor 10.0.4.1 remote AS 100. Okay. Neighbor 10.0.4.1 update source loopback 1. Okay, now let's go to router number 4, also repeat the same because networks already advertise on this, so we only have to create the neighborship in between these two. Okay, so router BGP 100 neighbor, that is 10.0.2.1. Okay, remote AS 100 neighbor 10.0 dot, so neighborship message we got, right or not? 10.0.2.1 update source loopback 1. Okay, dear, now the adjacencies will be up with the loopback IP addresses. Okay, in between loopback to loopback, if we want to create the loopback to loopback, then we have to provide this information that this is via loopback 1. Okay, now we have just created the neighborship in between them all. Let's go to server now and advertise the networks. Okay, dear, so router BGP 100. Okay, neighbor, we have three neighbors. This one 10.0.1.1, 3.1 and 4.1. Let's mention all of these. Neighbor 10.0.1.1, 1.1. Okay, route reflector client. Okay, 10.0 dot 10.0 dot 3.1 and route reflector client. Now let's also do for 10.0.4.1 and route reflector client. Once you will provide this information, the adjacencies will be up. Okay, and they will automatically share all the data in between them. So now let's go to router number 1 and cross check the tables. So do show IP BGP. Now dear, you got all the information from first to last in the table. So all the networks are available here, like we got in OSPF tables, right or not, dear? So do show IP route. Okay, so here you can see that all the neighborship is available via BGP also. Okay, B means BGP. Okay, so all the network information are available with the BGP as well as OSPF. Okay, let me try to ping them. So let's go to router number 1 and try to ping. Okay, so ping 10.0.4.1 and I will mention source as 10.0.1.1. That I just want to ping from loopback to loopback. Can they able to ping via loopback to loopback? Yeah, they can ping. Right or not, dear? So any confusion with this neighborship via loopback, dear?